a Porsche that cost more than a legendary Ferrari F40, a machine equipped with high-tech cameras instead of side mirrors all the way back in the 1980s, featuring a hidden electronic floor safe built specifically for a loaded gun or bricks of cash, and custom-tailored for the most notorious kingpins of the cocaine era. Welcome to the untold story of the Gemballa Avalanche, the wildest, most unapologetically decadent machine to ever emerge from the shadows of the 80s. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we are traveling back in time to an era where sanity was completely thrown out the window. The year is 1985. Season 2 of the hit show Miami Vice just conquered the global airwaves. America's import-export business is booming, and a young Michael Jordan was just named the NBA Rookie of the Year. The 1980s were defined by one simple, unwritten rule: go big or go home. This culture of unapologetic excess naturally bled right into the automotive world. Almost overnight, car design went full geometric. The Chevrolet Camaro and Ford Mustang embraced sharp, boxy lines, while the C4 Corvette went completely wedge-shaped. Yet, amidst this radical design revolution, the iconic Porsche 911 stayed stubbornly traditional. For all intents and purposes, the 911 retained its classic, muted proportions, save for a few ADS styling cues sprinkled onto the turbocharged 930 generation. But for the ultra-wealthy elite of the decade, a factory-spec 911 simply lacked the wow factor needed to truly stand out on the neon-lit streets. Enter Uwe Gemballa, a visionary tuner out of Stuttgart, Germany. Gemballa looked at the understated 911 and decided to completely tear up the factory rulebook. He created an automotive subculture so jaw-droppingly insane and astronomically expensive that the brand's target market organically shifted away from traditional sports car enthusiasts and straight into the hands of high-profile celebrities, rock stars, and the decade's most notorious cocaine kingpins. Gemballa did not start out building fire-breathing wide-body monsters. The company began its humble operations in 1979 with a singular focus: creating highly bespoke, custom interior upgrades for premium BMWs and Porsches. They would completely rip apart factory cabins, reupholstering every single surface in exotic leathers, and installing cutting-edge 1980s spec technology. As word spread, demand skyrocketed like a rocket ship. Gemballa rapidly expanded his operations, modifying top-tier flagship vehicles for AMG, Ferrari, and Rolls-Royce. But in the background, Uwe Gemballa was quietly scheming a much grander, far more extreme project: a completely redesigned, radical flat-nose exterior for the Porsche 911. In 1984, Gemballa finally unleashed the two cars that would alter the company's trajectory forever: the Avalanche Coupe and the Cyrrus convertible. These vehicles looked like absolutely nothing else on the planet. Gemballa altered virtually every single factory body panel. The cars featured a signature slant-nose front end with pop-up headlights, aggressively widened rear fenders with Ferrari Testarossa styled side strakes, a unique dual triple exhaust setup boasting 6 exhaust pipes total, and a gargantuan rear spoiler. While Gemballa focused heavily on the theatrical visual design and avant-garde interiors of his creations, he knew the cars needed the mechanical muscle to back up their wild aesthetics. To solve this, he partnered with legendary Porsche tuning powerhouse RUF Automobile. RUF took the turbocharged engines and massaged them to pump out a staggering 375 horsepower, delivered directly to the rear wheels via a dogleg 5-speed manual transmission. To put 375 horsepower in 1985 into perspective, this was the absolute dark age of global emissions regulations. American V8 muscle cars of the era were gasping for air, barely scraping past 230 horsepower. Gemballa's creations weren't just fast, they were absolute rockets. But far more shocking than the horsepower figures was the price tag. In 1985, a fully loaded Gemballa Avalanche carried a price tag of nearly 400,000 Deutschmarks. When converted to US dollars at the time, that equated to an astronomical, mind-numbing $700,000. To contextualize that number, a few years later, the legendary Ferrari F40 carried an MSRP of roughly $400,000, The sci-fi, American-made Vector W8 was valued at $450,000. Gemballa cars were so prohibitively expensive that they effectively barred the standard wealthy elite. You had to be a multimillionaire, or slightly unhinged, to sign that check. This sheer exclusivity became the brand's greatest marketing tool. With a car that cost more than a Beverly Hills mansion, Uwe Gemballa leaned heavily into his unique, high-rolling clientele. According to prolific 1980s drug traffickers like Jorge Valdez, Gemballa allegedly opened an office in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, smack in the middle of the era's booming cocaine capital. True or not, there was no better backdrop for Gemballa's automotive vision than southern Florida, a sun-drenched playground of overflowing cash, neon lights, and high-stakes underworld crime. If you had the money, Gemballa would build literally anything you wanted. The options list read like a sci-fi wish list. Want a 5-figure, stadium-grade aftermarket sound system that filled the entire front trunk with amplifiers? Done. Want a custom center console complete with a built-in champagne cooler and matching Tiffany crystal glasses? Done. Gemballa would even install a floor-mounted electronic safe inside the cabin, perfect for storing luxury Rolex watches if you were a mainstream celebrity, or a loaded Tech 9 if you were a kingpin of the underworld. Most insanely, Gemballa actually replaced traditional side view mirrors with bulky, high-tech cameras linked to interior monitors. This was 1980s technology being violently forced into the future. The system required so much wiring and heavy hardware that the entire front trunk of the Porsche had to be completely hollowed out just to house the electronic components running the cabin. Production numbers for these hand-built creations remain incredibly scarce. Records indicate that only about 13 original Gemballa Avalanches were ever officially built, along with a handful of convertible Cyrrus models. Gemballa also pushed the envelope even further with the introduction of the Mirage and Mirage Evo. These ultra-rare iterations took the Avalanche formula and dialed it up to a terrifying 500 horsepower, all while dropping the factory roofline by several inches just to create a more menacing, chop-top silhouette. Ultimately, the extreme, neon-soaked lifestyle of the 1980s went away just as fast as it arrived. As the decade drew to a close, economic realities shifted, laws tightened, and the global demand for flamboyantly outlandish automotive designs sharply declined. While Gemballa miraculously survived the crash and continues to build wildly fast, high-performance Porsches in the modern era, nothing will ever truly replicate the sheer magic of their 1980s catalog. Those original widebody cars were the ultimate product of being in the exact right place at the exact right time.